This is the U Show podcast.
Down deep, Greer, Cody looking save, rebound, score! Dominic Toninato, his first game of the year for Dominic Toninato, his first career National Hockey League goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the U Show podcast. I'm Chris Treft alongside Ben Gisselson. Today we have special guest Dominic Toninato. And Ben, normally this is the time where we talk USHL and get some stuff out of the way, talk about news and keep guys up to date, but we really don't have much as of right now.
I think we'd have to be magicians to have something every single week, considering the circumstances right now. And not that we're not going to have things moving forward. We obviously have the draft coming up here at the beginning of May. We'll likely have a longer intro for whoever we have on board with us that week and the week leading up to it, and probably the week after. But sometimes, I believe it was Shakespeare that said brevity is the soul of wit. So we're going to go ahead and go by Shakespeare's bounds on this one and just get right into the interview.
So the bad news, we didn't have any USHL news. The good news is you have to hear less of us and more from the guys you listen to this podcast to listen to. So Dominic Toninato was our guest, up-and-coming NHLer. He had his best season so far this year in the shortened year of his NHL career to date. Started the year in Springfield, but when he got called up to Florida, he had 11 points in 46 games, was a +4, and was really asserting himself into that Florida Panthers lineup under Joel Quenneville. So it was a great interview. He's a young kid with a lot of charisma, so it was fun to talk about. We didn't just talk about hockey, as always, so we talked about some fun stuff too. So this is a good one. So let's get to the interview with Florida Panthers forward Dominic Toninato. USHL alumni joining us is Florida Panthers forward Dominic Toninato. Dominic, how are we doing, sir?
We're doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Obviously, this is a crazy time, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime experience, hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But a lot of guys are trying to find ways to kill time while we wait for the season to get back underway, and hopefully that does soon. But in the meantime, what have you been up to, and how are you staying in shape?
Back home in Minnesota right now with my family, just trying to pass the time and stay self-isolated and just trying to stay safe in this crazy times, but trying to stay busy as well, just trying to get as many workouts in as possible and just trying to stay in shape and hoping for the best with the season.
Duluth, Minnesota High School, Fargo, North Dakota Junior, Duluth, Minnesota for your college. Now you're in Florida. Can you pick a climate that you like the most of those three?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a taste of everything. But I'd have to say my favorite has got to be Florida. I mean, you can't beat it. Showing up to the rink every day in shorts and a t-shirt, being able to golf whenever you want, being able to lay outside, go to the pool, go to the beach, all that fun stuff. But I definitely would say I miss the snow. I mean, growing up with it, big snow guy, especially around Christmas. I feel like that kind of just makes the holiday. But one thing I don't miss is the cold. A couple of cold places I've been in. It's not fun.
Have you found any good walleye spots in Florida yet? Do they have walleye in Florida?
I actually have not found walleye, but we did do a little fishing trip over Christmas break, and we caught some fun sea fish. So that was a really good time.
Oh, you mean the Christmas break where it was probably 70 degrees the whole time?
Yeah, you bet. Out on the boat in shorts and a t-shirt, catching a tan.
We all feel terrible for you and the weather you have to go through throughout the year.
So again, Duluth, you grow up there, you wind up in Fargo playing for the Force in the USHL. What was the journey there like? How on the radar was the USHL for you growing up in the state of hockey?
Yeah, I think personally for me, I wasn't ready for the full jump to the college level straight out of high school. So I knew I needed at least a year of USHL, possibly two. And after my senior season at Duluth, I went up to Fargo and played a few games while they were finishing their season. Just kind of met the guys and met the staff and just got a taste of what USHL hockey was like. And after their season concluded, I made it a full season up there and played a full season there. And it really just got me ready for the college level, helped me develop my game and grow as a person.
Very established Fargo Force organization now, had their first Clark Cup 2 seasons ago. How much did you pay attention to Fargo after you left? Did you pay attention during that Clark Cup run for them?
Yeah, I mean, you see stuff with social media. I mean, you see it all the time. And I was really happy for for Fargo to finally get that first one. I mean, we had made it to so many championships early on and throughout, but never broke through and got that title. So it was awesome to see them finally win one, and I was happy for the city and happy for all the people involved.
The 1 year, the full season you had in the USHL, it was kind of anomaly if you look at the top scorers. I mean, normally the USHL is more known for a defensive style, a college style, where if a guy gets a point per game, like he's pretty darn good. But your season, I mean, I looked it up, and when I clicked on it, I'm like, oh, he had 70 points in 64 games. Like, he had to have been top 2 scorer, but you were actually 9th because it was a crazy year of goals. You had Camerata with 93 points. Waterloo had the top 3 scorers with 87 and 78 after that. Why do you think that one season that you were there was so high scoring and had so many guys just put up massive numbers, which is pretty rare in the USHL?
It was a heck of a year. I mean, I think it's just the skill level of guys that season. I mean, you were naming off some pretty big names, and they all had successful years. And I think I don't think you can pinpoint one thing, but I think if you can look at one, it's probably just the skill level of all those top guys.
Who was the one guy in the league that year that you remember that was just like, oh no, we have to play him tonight? How are we going to shut this guy down?
Well, I think it was just that whole Waterloo team. You said it, those top 3 guys were top 3 in the league. They were always dangerous to play against every given night, and you make one mistake, the puck's in the back of your net.
Take us back to the journey to a Clark Cup berth for the Force that year. You were a big part of it, leading them in scoring. But like you were just talking about, the journey there could only have been an arduous one, considering the fact that Waterloo is in the West, and the West every year in, year out, is just so darn hard to get through, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it just speaks to how deep the USHL is, and how good all the teams are. But that was my first taste of kind of the series playoff hockey. Coming through high school, it's always one and done. So that was a little different for me, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great run. We had a couple game 5s, and ended up coming up a little short to Dubuque in the finals. But it was a heck of a journey, and had a lot of fun with it.
Is there a singular moment of one of those Western series on the way there that you remember most fondly?
Whew, we're going way back here. Yeah, let's see. I think we had a great battle with Waterloo, but I think the games with Sioux Falls, I believe that went to 5 games, and that was a back and forth series. They were a tough team. They grinded it out, and it was just a hard fought battle that I remember winning that game 5 in their barn, and just the excitement and fun we had with it, going to move on. I think that was the toughest one.
So I went to school in Moorhead, Minnesota, right across the river from Fargo. So yeah. I know that Fargo is a much better town than some people might give it credit for. When you weren't on the ice, which I know in the USHL, it's almost like a job, but away from the rink with your buddies on the team, what were the Fargo Force members getting up to when you weren't playing hockey up in Fargo?
I mean, Fargo's a great city. They, when we were there, it was really expanding, and it was really growing. And but for us, we did a lot of hanging out at each other's houses. We did that, and we spent a lot of time at the bowling alley. One of the players, Billett's family's brother, I think owned it or managed the bowling alley, so we got some pretty good discounts. I don't know if you can say that.
What was your average?
Oh boy, I don't know. I'm probably mid-100 kind of guy.
What was your best score and what was your worst score?
Oh boy, worst score I'd say I'm probably got like 195 maybe, and my best score I've ever had, like a 190, 195 one time.
It's pretty solid.
The ball was rolling nice out there.
You're not using bumpers, that's for sure.
So you're leaving the USHL. Are there moments, and maybe they're hockey related, maybe they're not, is there a Mount Rushmore of moments for you that you think of that this is the time in the USHL that I'll never forget it. And maybe they're on the ice and maybe they're not.
Yeah, I think, well, first, it was the first time I was away from home. I grew up in Duluth, played in Duluth my whole life, and was eventually going back to Duluth after Fargo. So I was kind of just soaking up that being on my own. I mean, obviously you have billets, but being away from my family and meeting new people, just kind of branching out and getting a little more uncomfortable with my surroundings, because I always had been in Duluth and whatnot. So that was a big step for me, and kind of branching out, and then just the group of guys we had there. I mean, and the success we had as well. We had a lot of guys move on and go to the next level, which was fun to watch, and just being able to hang out with those guys every day. And now that I thought about it, my top is definitely the no school part. finally not having school was awesome. Just hockey and hanging out. It was the best.
Felt like a professional for the first time.
Yep, exactly. I was like, I can get used to this.
Yeah.
What parts of your game do you think you saw develop most while you were with Fargo?
My size and strength. I mean, not so much height, but just getting bigger. I mean, I graduated high school at 165 pounds, if you'll believe it. And I actually put on 15 to 20 pounds when I was out in Fargo. So, I mean, that speaks to the strength coach out there, and what he did for me and helped me out and getting bigger and stronger and more prepared for that college level.
Speaks to your billets for having a stocked fridge too.
Yeah, for sure. Great meals.
So you're on your way back now to Duluth, and my father actually graduated from UMD. He calls it the small little D3 school just north of Hinckley, because everybody from outside of there looks at it like that sometimes. Maybe not so much anymore with the back-to-back national titles that the Bulldogs have under them now. But He knows, as I well know, because he's told me, and everybody I talk to from up there is an immense sense of pride in UMD. Not only hockey, but the football program up there, the athletic program is huge. And
Absolutely.
There's pride to it. For you to get to go back there and have the career that you had at UMD, I'd imagine has to probably be one of the joys of your life.
Oh, it was one of the best times of my life for sure. Growing up in Duluth, was always a Bulldog fan and always wanted to be a Bulldog at heart. And my dad played there as well. So it just came kind of full circle and made it extra special to be able to grow up watching them, having my dad play there and then being able to play there myself was an awesome time. Just being able to play in front of the home city, the home crowd. I always had a ton of family members in the stands, and just the memories I made there and the success we had there as well was just kind of topped it all off.
How impactful was your father, Jim, in your career? How impactful is he now, even probably to this day?
Yeah, I mean, I got to thank both my parents for everything they've done for me. But yeah, my dad, obviously he's got that hockey background and can teach me some things along the way. And he kind of knows how to tell you when to just kind of take a breath and just have fun with it. And can give you a little kick in the butt if you need it when you need to get going and you're not really on top of your game. But I think for the most part, he did a great job of just letting me do me. And when I needed the help and went to him, he helped me out.
UMD has such a wealth of options for players in that area. You've got obviously Duluth East, your alma mater, Hermantown, two powers of Minnesota high school hockey. You also draw pretty well from Canada too in that area, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. But talking about Duluth specifically, Adam Krause, former teammate of yours, now an assistant coach there, who was a Hermantown kid. He played at UMD with you.
Yep.
He's talked to me about how they don't just pick anybody and everybody of the best players from Duluth, because there's pressure that goes along with being a Duluth kid playing for UMD. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think a little bit more rides on your shoulders. Just the fact of being the hometown kid, and everybody wants to succeed so bad. And like I said, you have so many family members in the crowd, and you have local people that have watched you throughout your career growing up, and obviously they want the best and think you're going to be able to bring the best. And sometimes if you're not performing, it can get a little tough.
That was probably one of the easiest recruits they ever had, right? I mean, did you even talk to any other schools? How did that process go, being a Duluth kid?
No, I did talk to a couple other schools. I wanted to keep my options open and just kind of see what other teams had to offer and what their ranks look like and stuff like that. I mean, it was a cool process to be a part of and something you get once. So I wanted to take full advantage of it and kind of see other opportunities. But deep down, I was always a Bulldog, and in the end, it was a pretty easy decision.
The path in front of you to get to UMD seemed pretty straight and narrow. From there, though, it gets a little more zigzagged. After UMD, drafted by Toronto, then you wind up making your debut and scoring your first NHL goal with Colorado. Now you're in Florida. That's an experience that I feel like a lot of hockey players right away, it happens to guys. And were you ready for it? Was that something that you feel like was tough to go through, or do you think it's helped you grow into the player you are today?
Well, I got to thank my coaches at UMD for kind of getting me mentally prepared for what was going to happen. I mean, in the NHL, it's a business, and it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I think they did a good job of kind of getting me ready for that business part and mentally prepared for that. So, I mean, I've played on 5 teams in the first 3 years of being a pro. So, I mean, I've been in 4 different states, and it's been a crazy whirlwind, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been a blast, and just enjoying the ride right now, and hopefully it can last a while.
I heard Jeff Merrick on Sportsnet ask this question, and he asks it a lot to guys that have just got into the NHL or even people that have been in it for a long time. Is there a singular, oh my gosh, I'm in the NHL moment that you have where you went, wow, this is what the NHL is like?
Yeah, I think my whole first year, actually, obviously you're really nervous and anxious and all the things that go into your first game. But then just about a month later, you just kind of sitting there in the locker room or sitting at the hotel and just thinking like, wow, this is really the NHL. This is what you've worked for your whole life. And sometimes you just got to sit back and just pinch yourself, really.
So far this season, you're having the best of your professional career in terms of in the NHL, 11 points, 4 goals, 7 assists in 46 games. Why do you think this season has been your coming out party? Not that you had bad seasons before by any means, but this year you've really solidified yourself as an NHLer.
Well, I think just growing as a player at the professional level. I mean, it's really tough to just jump into your pro career and have success right off the hop. So I think kind of just growing into a professional player and getting a feel for the game a little more, and you get more confidence obviously as you keep playing. So I think a mixture of all that, and just a new scenery down in Florida. Was able to take advantage of an opportunity, and hopefully we can keep running with it.
Joel Quenneville, one of the most celebrated coaches in NHL history. You're playing for him. What is that like?
Oh, it's awesome. Q's a great coach, great guy. He knows how to win. I mean, he's brought that winning mentality down to Florida, and obviously we were right in the playoff mix the whole year, and we had a little slump there mid-season, but we came back and we're right there in the race. And unfortunately, the season's at halt right now. But obviously we're hoping we can get things going again and make a push for that playoffs. But yeah, Q's a great coach and very respected around the locker room, and he's done a great job. Love playing for him.
So we scrolled through your Twitter feed. We found some pretty cool stuff. The first one that stood out to me was when you were with Colorado, you put on some glasses that made you legally blind. And I know Colorado does a lot of stuff with the community. And, they had like a blind hockey session and everything. What was that like? And, like how cool was that experience, and how tough was it to do what those guys were doing?
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. I was so glad I got to be a part of that. And what Colorado put on for those kids and people was awesome. They were out there having a great time, skating around, shooting pucks. And I got to learn more about blind hockey and some of the things they do. They use a bigger puck that rattles, and the goalies actually have to be fully legally blind. And somebody from what I remember, somebody gives it a little click or a tap when somebody's about to shoot for the goalies, and just being able to be out there and experience that is something I think everyone needs to experience, because it gives you just a greater perspective on things. And throwing those glasses on was crazy. I mean, it was a pin. Trying to think of what they said. It was like a pencil hole or something. That's all you could see straight forward. You couldn't see anything. Like, you needed to find exactly where the puck was in the stick, and it was crazy. It was tough, but a lot of fun.
Also, when we saw you were with the Eagles, that you were excited for Pucks and Paws night. Now, what's your dog? What type of dog is it, and does it follow you around everywhere you go?
Yep. So we got a mini golden doodle. Her name is Ruby. She'll be 2 in July. She's awesome. She's full of energy and just a great dog. Listens well, and she's definitely my best friend for sure. She follows us everywhere we go. She's a traveling dog, that's for sure.
How does she like Florida?
So we actually got her in Colorado, so she was kind of used to the cold, and I mean, not saying Colorado gets too cold, but she liked the colder climate with the snow, loves snow. And then we moved her down to Florida, and it was definitely a change of pace for her. She couldn't last outside too long. She got hot quickly. But she's a swimmer, so we'd bring her to the lake and let her cool down there. So it wasn't too bad.
We're talking about your dog. What other passions are there in the life of Dominic Toninato that you get up to when you don't have a hockey stick in your hands?
I'd say the biggest thing is golfing. I'm a big golfer. Love to golf in the summer, and obviously now being in Florida, can golf year round. So every time I come back for the summer now, I got a little head start on all my buddies.
I was going to say, you got to have buddies that give you grief about the advantage that you have on that. What's your handicap, if you don't mind sharing?
I'd say my handicap's probably about a 6.
I think that's the first anyone's told us on this podcast. So
Yeah.
We're going to put a tally together at the end of it. We usually get into golf with almost everybody. All right. So I think you're on the leaderboard right now, Dominic, for leading. So congratulations on that. Leading the USHL alumni golfing handicap leaderboard.
Yeah, easy to be on top and nobody else is giving one.
Last question for me, Dominic. You got a lot of young players that are on their way to the USHL or want to be on their way to the USHL and want to take the path that you've taken to where you're at right now. Is there a little bit of advice you could give them that you would give them if you had a chance to speak to the younger generation on maybe something you'd tell the younger Dominic Toninato when you were just entering into the USHL that you know now that you didn't know then?
Well, one thing for me, I think, would be don't rush. I mean, a lot of kids nowadays like to rush into things and leave high school early and start the process quicker than most kids. And I mean, obviously everyone's situation is a little different than say the next person. But for me, I'd say it's don't rush, just enjoy the moment. And everyone's path is different. If you're a good player, you're going to make it to where you want to be in the end. So I think just living in the moment, enjoying your time in high school and in the USHL and whatever path you take, but just don't rush things. Just enjoy it.
Well, Dominic, we really appreciate the time. Everyone has a lot of time on their hands, but still to take your time out of your day, we really appreciate it. We really wish you the best of luck going forward, representing the USHL and continuing your NHL career.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me today, guys.
Thanks a bunch, Dominic. Enjoy God's country up there.
I will.
Another big thanks to Dominic Toninato for joining us. It was a great interview with a great young hockey player who I really think has a bright future in the NHL. Just so grateful for him to give us that time, even though, like we always say, a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands, but still, we really appreciate it.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. When we can tell our guests are having a good time, that's big for us. It means we're doing our job at least the best to our abilities, and it seemed like Dominic was having a fun time doing this, and we certainly were, Chris. So really enjoyed that. Thanks to Dominic. Also, a big thank you to Adeline Biedenbach of the Florida Panthers for setting up that interview with Mr. Toninato as well.
Speaking of the University of Minnesota Duluth, that's not going to be the only time you hear about them this week on our next episode. Ben, looks like we have a special guest very close to you. Actually, we have two guests. One is your cousin, and the other one is also an award winner from the NCAA. Why don't you preview who we have upcoming this week?
I don't want to purport that Scotty and I are best friends by any means, but we've played some golf together at some family outings over the years. My cousin, Scott Perunovich of the UMD Bulldogs, just recently won the Hobie Baker Award, and I've always joked about it in my family that Scott has been slowly usurping me for the best hockey player in the family. I think it's official now with the Hobie Baker, St. Louis Blues draft pick, two-time national champion. I don't have anything even remotely in that realm under my playing stats. So I think it's official. He's officially the best hockey player in our family. All jokes aside, though, he's a great kid and a great hockey player and was a Cedar Rapids Rough Rider to boot. So we had fun with that. And then someone I don't know from a familial standpoint, but have seen a lot of his numbers from the University of Maine, and Jeremy Swayman, of course, winning the Mike Richter Award for top goaltender collegiately. A very star-studded list this week, and I'm excited for that for a lot of reasons.
It'll be a good show for sure, so make sure to stay tuned to the USHL social media channels and the website to learn how you can listen to our next episode of the U Show podcast, which is an all-NCAA special edition. So for Ben Gesselson and Dominic Toninato, I'm Chris Treft, and this was the U Show podcast.
This is the U Show podcast.